if you've gotten to this video, you're probably trying to figure out a new way to get more clients for your staffing or recruiting agency, or get different ideas. Maybe you've heard about marketing candidates or MPC campaigns. There's a lot of content out there on it. But in this video, I'm going to share with you one technique that I use. I'm going to share how I do MPC campaigns, and then one technique that I do that I haven't really heard of anyone else doing it. So watch this whole video, and also hit subscribe, because I share tons of tips on how to build your recruiting and staffing agency. So by the end of this video, you'll know how to do MPC campaigns, and you'll have a different tactic that is going to really be a differentiator for you in building your business. Business development is even more important now than ever. The recruiting industry is getting even more and more competitive. People are getting into it all the time. And so what you want to do, there's certain ways to stand out. I mean, one is being yourself, always be yourself. But we're going to talk about how to stand out by marketing your candidates effectively. There's essentially really like two main approaches that recruiters take to get more clients when they're doing outreach. And one is sending an email or an outreach describing who you are. Like, hey, if we're like, hey, I'm Diane Prince, and I do, for me, I do virtual assistant staffing. So I would say like, I wouldn't say this because I don't like this method, but this method is more like, hey, I offer virtual assistants, or like say you do tech recruiting, you might say, hey, I place Python engineers, and I've been in the industry this long, and blah, 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 and I came from, who knows, whatever. So that's one strategy, is really like introducing yourself and telling people about yourself, which really I don't recommend, because the most effective sales strategy is getting into your clients' pain points, your prospects' pain points. And that's why MPC campaigns are effective, because they're not talking about you and who you are. Instead, they're talking about, you're giving actually a solution to your prospect's current problem, which is filling a specific role. So that's the approach that MPC takes, that it's actually by marketing a candidate, you're actually introducing yourself by introducing a solution to your clients or your prospects' problem. So there's a couple of things that people typically get wrong with MPCs, and one is sending somebody out who's not truly an MPC. Okay, let's talk about that. Most placeable candidates truly are most placeable, and also that means most placeable for a fee. So some recruiters will help a candidate because they're nice, because they want to, because they're a really solid candidate, but that doesn't mean that they're placeable. They're actually like fee worthy. Okay, so it's really important to when you're going for the MPC, so that you're spending your time most effectively, you really want that unicorn. Okay, you really want that extraordinary candidate that's going to stand out and that's going to get attention. Now, if you might be a solopreneur, and if you are, then you really always be looking out for that really, really killer candidate. And this is one great reason to niche. And I have content on that and finding your niche. But because when you have a true MPC, the idea is to be able to have candidate clients already who are in the market for this kind of person. And then you're also sharing them with prospective clients, so that you're really having, the idea is that for every candidate you have, that you have multiple opportunities for them. So be careful not to go down a rabbit hole with someone who's not truly an MPC. Doesn't mean they're not a great person, doesn't mean they're not a great employee, but if they're truly, you really want like that needle in a haystack for the MPCs. Now, if you're managing a team, if you're an owner of an agency, or if you have other recruiters on your team, what I recommend doing is having each recruiter having a KPI, so that they, every week you could have an MPC meeting where each recruiter brings their MPC to the table. So it's really important to communicate, especially if you're in a remote team. It's really important to keep up that communication so that everybody knows. It's like, if you think about like a writer's table or something like that, then it's like sitting around a table, or if you're in Zoom, and everybody's sharing the highlights of their MPC and with the recruiters and the sales team, so that people can kind of understand, okay, like this, these are the MPCs, and then the people who are managing the clients will have ideas like, oh, my client might want that person. Okay. And then also thinking about like prospects and what prospects you could send an MPC to. Okay. And then when you send out your MPC, you want it to be compelling. So you need a compelling subject line. Sometimes I'm just going to say, like, sometimes I do this without even having a candidate. And what I'll say there is like, say, it's your Java engineer. I will just say your Java engineer in the subject line. And I'll say, hey, I spoke to a candidate who might be a great fit for your Java engineering role. And then that also works. And then I give like 3 bullet points of a typical, typical like unicorn Java engineer, because oftentimes with an MPC campaign, when you get the person on a Zoom or on a call, you're going to start digging into what the role is. And typically the call goes more into that and asking them about their needs more so than just focusing on this one candidate. But we can talk about that a little later. So keep your outreach simple, keep it compelling. One thing that always works for me in subject lines, it usually works the best, is with the word your in the subject line. Like if I say your Java engineer or whatever, that can work really well. Also, I will say something like, with the MPC campaign, you want to highlight either, and this is a great question that you can ask your candidates when you're interviewing them, highlight a way that they saved a company money, made a company money, or improved a process. If they're from a logo company, a company that's really desirable, you can say that. You can say that in the header. So you want to keep it really, keep it simple, but keep it compelling, and I like to use bullet points. So it could be like, Java engineer out of Meta. I'm just making that up. I have no idea if Meta uses Java or whatever, but, or, something like that. And then you could say, I'm representing this Java engineer who, and then like 5 bullet points max. This is, it could be their degree. It could be where they live. It could be, if that's relevant. Okay. It could be, and then you want to say what they did, like be specific on what makes this person stand out. Okay. So probably like where they live and stuff would be like further down probably, but you want to say like, they did this, they did this, they did this. And then what would be the best way for me to introduce you to this engineer? So here are a couple of things that I typically do differently than some other people when doing an MPC campaign. Sometimes people get redact resumes, or they'll take out like the names, or they'll take out information where people can find them. I don't, because when I send, you never want to send the resume with your MPC outreach. Okay. You want to just send some highlights. Okay. And also you can go to you can get ChatGPT to help you with subject lines. I don't always usually love their subject lines though. There's also a website, I think it's subjectline.com or something like that, to help you to craft your subject lines. I find that ChatGPT are a little bit too salesy, but I will ask it. Sometimes I'll say create a compelling subject line that is irresistible, that and give the situation. And then I might say something like that it could be a headline for the National Enquirer or something like that. And then I usually do tweak it a little bit so that it doesn't sound too salesy. So that's subject lines though are very important. So first I'll bring that up. I'll share the bullet points, and then I'll say what would be the best way for me to introduce you to this candidate. And then I want to get their input. So I want to get their yes first before I send a resume. Okay. And generally it's great if they'll say, what are your fees or whatever. So you want to make it clear. So if they say, if they respond positively, first I would try to get them on a phone call. Okay, you want to, with the goal is just to get them on a call. I wouldn't just send out a resume without getting them on a call. So that's really would be my goal. And then once they get buy-in, I will share the contact information. I don't know. I don't spend a lot of time redacting resumes. You can. That is something that you can use virtual assistants for. And if you don't know, I have a virtual assistant agency. So we specialize in staffing and recruiting, so they can help you with all this stuff, like all the details, because some of the stuff is pretty detailed. So they can definitely do that for you if that's something that you want to do. Okay, then the other thing that I mentioned earlier that is a total differentiator, when you have a really good placeable candidate who is going to be in a future hiring manager capacity, okay, have either you do it yourself. This is time consuming though, so you probably do want a VA to do this for you. You want to keep them in the loop. Okay, so we had an excellent candidate who was a technical project manager, and she was just a really placeable candidate. And so she actually got laid off. And typically, I don't know if I would typically use, I don't know, you just have to make sure, but there's something about her that she was just really, really solid. I don't always use someone who's laid off as an MPC, but she was really, really solid. So what we did is, one of my recruiters who was great at MPCs and also great at candidate relationships, she created a whole MPC campaign around this candidate. But the difference was that most people don't do is she kept the candidate in the loop. Okay, so she kept a report that she continuously updated the candidate. Okay, now you cannot do this for every candidate. This is truly a candidate that is going to be an exceptional, is going to be a hiring manager in the future. Okay, so with that, I mean, imagine the candidate knowing, okay, these are the places that we've submitted you to. This is what's happened. This is just keeping them in the loop is a total game changer. Okay, again, you only want to do this with a really solid person who you believe could be an excellent hiring manager, because chances are this person's probably going to get a job not through you. Okay, because they're looking for a job, and so they might get a job through somebody else, which is one of my favorite ways to get clients, is people who get jobs through other recruiters, because they're generally not my clients at the time. And so I really recommend that. And you probably need somebody to help you with the admin on that. So there's going to be a link here on how you can talk to my A team to help you with that. But when you keep the candidate in the loop, it will solidify that relationship forever. This person, we were trying to get into the Guitar Center, was a client that was on our target list, and just coincidentally, this candidate ended up getting a job at the Guitar Center, and so then she was open to using us and became a client. So that was amazing. Another thing, a mistake that I see happen is, and something that I'll do that's a bit different, is typically recruiters will only send out MPCs to clients or prospects who have job postings. Okay, you know who else is doing that? Everyone is looking at job postings and sending MPCs. Okay, so another technique that has really worked well for me is identifying the typical hiring managers that this person truly a unicorn would work for, and then messaging them even if they don't have a job posting, and suggesting maybe they want to talk to this person as an opportunistic hire. And even if they don't want to, that shows that you understand who would be an ideal candidate for this client. Okay, so don't just look at all the job postings. Okay, look at the people who you'd really like to work with, who you identify as a target client, and share with them, hey, I know you don't have a job posted, but I noticed that this person's a match, and tell them the reasons why. This person is just came off an assignment or whatever it is, and or I happen to know this person is looking. They whatever reason or something like that is compelling to them. So I just thought I'd share this just in case you might want to talk to this person as an opportunistic hire. Okay, that shows that you're elevated to a different level. You are more of a you take a consultative approach versus transactional, like, oh, hey, this is a job opening. Let me try to send this candidate for this job opening. It shows more that you're taking the time to understand who this hiring manager is and what potentially, or what could really help them. You're adding a lot of value, not just answering a job posting. And at the same time, you're getting them at a different point, because when they have a job posted, they're going to be flooded by recruiters. So when they don't have a job posted, you're going to stand out as someone who's looking out for them. So remember, the goal of the MPC campaign isn't really to do this transaction, right? It's not really just to fill this role or get this candidate in this role. It's to build a relationship. So the goals of MPCs for me are usually get the person on a call. And I can tell you, like, I've done MPCs where typically they don't even ask about that specific candidate, because once you get them on the call, you want to start asking questions about them, about their needs, and it typically blossoms into a lot of other things. So I would look at the MPC campaigns as a way to build a relationship with candidates who can become hiring managers. Okay, you want to be careful about that. You want to be really selective about where you put your MPC time, and then also approach this as a relationship building technique. Now, it needs to be said that a solid LinkedIn profile and presence really helps with this. Like any outreach campaign, people are going to be looking at your LinkedIn, assuming that you're doing professional roles. If you're doing, which typically what you could do MPCs with other kinds of roles, with like light industrial. But anyway, assuming that your people are on LinkedIn, that was a total tangent. Assuming your people are on LinkedIn, it's really important to have a solid LinkedIn presence. And if you want help with that, let me know. I can help you with that. I do some coaching on that. But if you really want to have a solid LinkedIn presence, because anytime that you're sending out anything, when it's MPC or whatever, people are probably going to look at your LinkedIn to see who you are, so that they can be like, oh yeah, they look legit. That's worth the conversation. So don't neglect your LinkedIn presence. It's really important. Okay, and that's it. Like those are that's how I do things differently with MPCs. So really the most important takeaways are: make sure your MPC is truly most placeable. Okay, don't mess around if they're not really most placeable. With your candidates who are going to be likely going to be in hiring manager roles, use MPC campaigns as a way to build a relationship with them. That is one of my absolute favorite ways to get clients, is through building a candidate relationship with candidates, and they get placed from somebody other recruiter. I always get those. Get them as clients. So being able to identify your candidates who will be hiring managers is key. And then I don't waste a lot of time with like tricks like redacting resumes and stuff like that. Once you get the person, once you talk to them, you have a relationship. And if somebody steals one of your candidates, it's going to happen from time to time. It's not great. I mean, it's terrible, but I would rather build that relationship and focus on that. Because if somebody's going to do that, I don't know, you don't want them anyway. So MPCs are going to, when you send MPCs, you focus on your candidates, on solving your client's problem versus introducing yourself and talking about yourself. And it's, those are my differentiators in how to do an MPC campaign. And remember, sound like yourself. Even if you use ChatGPT to help you, make sure you sound like yourself. I do have a tone of voice exercise. We'll put my link tree in the comments so that you can access and figure out different ways to use me, different ways that I can help you. So this concludes our video, our session today on most placeable candidates and candidate marketing. So happy selling to you.